Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast, where you learn how to turn other people's debt into income for your savings or IRA. Whenever people ask where they should start investing, there is a school of thought that says you should pick your own backyard. The idea here is that you may already have a network within that geography and a sense of familiarity with that local area. After all, you live close to that area and you have a general sense of what the neighborhood is like. And even if it's not exactly in your backyard, and let's say it's a few cities over, it's somewhere that you can easily drive to. With note investing, it's a bit more nuanced than that. One of the greatest advantages of note investing is that you can do it from anywhere. All you really need is some internet connection and a phone. I have 3 mortgage notes, and I've only been to one of those properties in person. The other 2 are out of state. Because you can invest anywhere in the country, it becomes harder to narrow down that list. So if you're first starting in the note investing niche, there are states that people will recommend to you, and then there are states that other people will say you should 100% avoid. When I first started, I heard to avoid New York, New Jersey, and Florida. These 3 states have a reputation for longer foreclosure times, sometimes taking years. So if you're a conservative investor like me, you might want to avoid these states because longer foreclosure times also means more expensive foreclosure costs. However, if you're an experienced investor, you could assess a situation and see that the lenders are avoiding these states, which means less competition for you. Less competition can also mean more profit. Well, today's guest breaks down his reasoning for why he and his partners invest heavily in some of the most avoided states within the industry. Pay attention to why they choose these states and think about how it can apply to wherever you want to invest. Before we dive into today's Note Nugget, let's learn about our guest. Bill Bymel is the managing director of Spurs Capital. Bill oversees a portfolio of distressed residential mortgages. He is the founder of RSI Asset Management LLC, a third-party loss mitigation advisor and REO brokerage based in South Florida. He is a regular speaker at industry trade events and published his first book, Win-Win Revolution. Now, I know that you mentioned New York, New Jersey, and Florida, and I've read and spoken to other people that avoid those 3 states in particular. What is it about those states that you're attracted to?
Oh, that's interesting, and it's true that if you're a nationwide person that, if you live in Indiana or whatever, they're going to try to keep you out of those states as a protection to you if you're new to the business. There is a lot of people that would avoid judicial because without a clear understanding of the market value, and more importantly, the laws in the state, the judicial process of foreclosing, without a grasp of what that's going to be, the costs can really start to skyrocket. So I can understand why, the noob is being told not to get into those markets. But from our perspective, it's kind of like the blood in the streets metaphor. We wanted to go in directions where others wouldn't. And we wanted to take advantage of the opportunities that existed. So when we look at the markets of Florida, New York, New Jersey, well, first of all, it started with, these are the markets that I know. These are the places that I've lived. But second of all, banks and sellers determine what they're willing to what they're willing to discount off the face value of these NPLs based upon their expectation of time and cost that they're going to have to foreclose the asset. So in states like New York and Florida, we saw the biggest discounts in the pricing of NPLs. So the standard model, when you go, let's say, and on an average to your average state administrative foreclosure, you go to Texas, worst case scenario is 12 months. More often, you're talking 4 to 6 months. You have the property back and you can liquidate it.
Right.
Maybe even less time. But maybe you budget in these administrative states to a 1-year timeline if you have to foreclose an NPL. In New York and Florida, you're budgeting to a 3-year timeline. So now I get 2 more years of discount, quote unquote, when I buy. So instead of paying 80%, I'm paying 60%, or instead of paying 60%, I'm paying 35%. And then, going back to what I was telling you about my history, we average 14 months in these hard to work states. So I'm paring that timeline down with local expertise, good attorneys, and understanding of the law, creative loss mitigation options, boots on the ground, and a real understanding of whether the collateral value is. That's how I'm able to arbitrage that upside and how I'm able to be successful. That's why I go after judicial states. I just get the loans cheaper. I work them just hard, and I can get them resolved in the same timeline as the administrative states. But because of that cheaper pricing, it not only gave me more options for mitigating those loans, but it also gave me more upside in a better. When I hit the home run on one, and somebody hands me a deed in lieu in 30 days, when I was counting on a 3-year foreclosure, then I make a very nice profit. The final aspect as to why we focused on Florida and New York is, and this is a little bit of patting ourselves on the back, but my partner and I looked at each other and we said, look, this foreclosure crisis is going to have a fixed timeline. What happens, and evidence is there. You go and try and find NPL in California and New York, it doesn't exist. There's just not really any out there. If a loan goes bad, the bank forecloses, they have the property back in 90 days. When we were looking at this from a business perspective, we said we'll have longevity in the business if we work the areas that will never, there's never a lack of inventory. And that's proven true. There's still a hefty amount of non-performing debt, and it's heavily concentrated in the states that had the largest backlog of foreclosure.
Interesting. I did not know that last bit of information, but it makes sense when you talk about it in that way.
Right.
So the buying it at a greater discount, you're already creating a greater spread, which is a greater opportunity.
Right.
Totally, I think, is an intuitive thing for most people. Bill's trusted team in those states, plus his experience as an investor, put him in a great position to succeed, even in the most difficult states. Wherever you decide to invest, know why you're picking that state and who you need in your network. Get access to my full interview with Bill at notenuggets.com/difficult-states. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.